All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. Today, I have a very, very special guest, a gentleman who I admire a lot. I must say, one of the hardest working people in the game. Jamaar Hawkins, welcome to the show, owner and developer of I64 Sports and many other things. It's an honor to have you on the show, man. How you doing?
All right, what's going on, brother, man? Thanks for having me again. Thanks for having me. It's always mutual. The respect has always been mutual. I definitely admire what you do, and I appreciate you for even supporting me from day one. Because before we really became close, you always supported me, giving me advice, and so I appreciate you, man. Anything you need, I'm here for you.
Yeah, and I feel the same about you. And let's talk about that. Years ago, man, I met this gentleman. I met you at my cousin's camp. I was the camp coordinator, and I said, "Who is this young brother running around here?" You were interviewing everybody. It was hot, and I just noticed your energy. And then you came over there, and you started talking to me, and then we've been brothers ever since, man. But let's talk about it. You're from the 757, and you take
Right.
pride in being from Norfolk, and you take pride in your community. One aspect I definitely love about you. Let's talk about it, because you have been able to showcase young men and women all over the Hampton Roads region and even in other parts of Virginia. I mean, you've expanded, but you definitely have made your footprint in the 757.
Right.
Take it back to when you were growing up, man. Did you know you were going to be doing it in the media? Did you play sports? What
When I
was
was
your situation?
So I grew up, of course, I'm from Norfolk. I'm from Youngs Park, which you have Ronye Whitaker up here. I'm actually from Whitaker Lane. I grew up on Whitaker Lane. So Whitaker Lane was actually renamed after his uncle, Sweet Pea Whitaker. I grew up on Whitaker Lane, so that's
Wow.
where I spent most of my childhood at. I was always involved in sports, played sports, basketball, football, played baseball growing up as well. So I was always into sports, with my dad. My dad played sports, went to Norview. My mom played sports. She went to Norview as well. So always was into sports. As far as the media aspect, I think when I was about 8 years old, I told my dad, like, we were watching, I want to say Stuart Scott. I was watching somebody on TV. And I was like, Dad, I want to do that. Like, I want to do that. And it's funny because I don't know if my dad really knew what he was saying at the time, but he was like, Black people don't do stuff like that. He was like, Black people don't do stuff like that. And, and honestly, other than Stuart Scott, I really didn't have anybody go off of. So I couldn't tell him that he was wrong at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of knew that when I grew older, I wanted to tell, the athlete stories. That's what I wanted to do. I always loved to read. I always loved to write. Even since I was real young, those two things I always loved to do. So I always knew that I would eventually tell people stories. Did I think that it would grow into this? Absolutely not. But I always kind of figured that, that's the position I would wind up in. So yeah, like I said, I'm a typical guy, typical kid from Norfolk, man, typical Black kid from Norfolk, basketball, football. Thought I was going to be in the professional athlete. But as you can see, stopped growing in high school. So, those dreams, kind of went out the door. But like I said, I just always had a vision for someday being able to tell, the athlete story and being able to kind of do what I do now. So I started with the Virginia Pilot back in 2014. I started with them as a high school sports correspondent under Larry Rubama, my mentor, Larry Rubama.
Yes,
So
yeah.
he actually, this is actually a funny story with that. I entered a contest. It was like an expert versus challengers contest. And I actually won I kept beating them. I just kept beating them. Like every week I was beating Larry and Jamie Frankenberry, who's the editor for the Virginia Pilot. So they like gave me a trial. They gave me a trial. They was like, look, if you can cover this game, you can do a great job. We'll allow you to be a reporter with us. And the game that I happened to cover was Josh Sweat, who's now playing with the Philadelphia Eagles. It was the first game of that season, and he tore his ACL. I think he tore his ACL and his MCL in that game.
I remember that.
And nobody knew who I was at the time, right? So I happened to grab my phone and I took a picture of it. I took a picture of him being carted onto the ambulance, and like from there, the picture plus the story. And Larry was like, "Hey, you're pretty good at what you do." So they gave me a shot at Virginia Pilot, which I stayed there for maybe a year or two. Then I ended up working with Recruit 757, which I ran the basketball side over there. for about another couple of years, and now with I64 Sports. So I think the thing with me is that I always want to have a reason. I always wanted to inspire kids that look like me, like the 8 or 9-year-old right now that wants to do what I do. Who is his inspiration? That's kind of why I keep doing what I do, and that's kind of what gave me my start.
I hear you say, you're just another kid from Norfolk, which I understand because I grew up across the water in Hampton and Newport News, and I know what you saw growing up. And you mentioned Ronyo Whitaker. I've interviewed recently Ronyo Whitaker and Mike White, and both from Norfolk, and both of them talk about, especially back in the day, the violence and the struggles of just trying to get to school or just trying to get through the day. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a journey. And how were you able to have tunnel vision and not get caught up? I know you have a great family and support system, but at the same time, many guys do and succumb to the streets. Norfolk is no place to play around with. A beautiful city, I love it. But at the same time, a lot of guys get caught up. How were you able to have the goals you had and have tunnel vision and not get caught up?
My dad. I had a real strong father that would not allow me to get caught up in that type of stuff. Like he always kept me involved in stuff, not even just sports, but it was always just something to keep me busy and just away from my present circumstances. Like he never allowed me to feel like this is where I would eventually end up at, the rest of my life. So I think just having a real strong father figure in my life just helped me and just really stay focused on what I wanted to do. And even now, that's why, with a lot of kids that I work with, we know that a lot of them don't have that father figure. So if I can be that person to, hey, give them some kind of guidance, some kind of advice, and maybe get them along that, that path, not saying it to be a straight path, because, we all mess up, but, if I can be that kind of father figure to them, that's perfect. So I just look back on my life, my childhood, and I had a great father who, I can tell you some stories. I seen my father get shot at when I was 5 years old. Just trying to pick me up. Yeah, he just got shooting at him. And I'm looking at it like I'm looking directly at him getting shot at. And I'm 5 years, I'm looking right at him getting shot at. And the only thing he's trying to do is pick his kids up from the neighborhood that he's not from. So like I said, when you deal with stuff like that and you see stuff like that, you understand that this can't be the end result for you. This is not where you want to grow up. This is not why I want to raise my kids. So yeah, man.
I was shot at?
Yeah, shot at. Yep.
This is why I love doing this.
Ducking behind his car. He's ducking and dodging behind his car, man. I'm 5 years old and I see all this stuff.
This is why I love the legacy spotlights, because I didn't even know that. And you and I had conversations. I follow everything you do on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything. And I had no idea that even happened.
Yeah, man. 5 years old.
And you remember that. You remember that.
I remember it like it happened yesterday. It's like I said, that's why I've always kind of understood, no matter where I'm living, no matter what I'm going through, I have to push forward. I have to keep moving. I can't allow my kids, I can't allow myself to continue to go through life like this. And that was just, like I said, I think it's something you remember because that should have a lasting effect on you. That's something that should have a lasting effect on you.
Yeah, definitely, man. Wow. That's a traumatic situation, but yet you use it as motivation. Yeah. I want to go to something, you talk about Recruit 757. That's when I met you and you were covering the camp, and we had a lot of NFL players there and you were jumping around interviewing people. Who are some of the guys, though, and this is going to be a tough question, but who are some of the guys you've covered in the last several years on a local level, athletes, basketball, football, track, whoever, because you've covered a lot of great ones and even some really good ones. Who's some of the guys or ladies that stand out to you when you went to a game and said, man, I covered that game and he or she put in work. I've never seen anything like that. Because for me, I'm older than you, obviously. I played against guys, and even now as a fan, I remember coming back home and watching guys. I had a show and talking to guys about Michael Evans and how dynamic he was. But for you, who are some of those guys or female athletes? You don't have to name them all, but you remember covering, saying, this, I'm enjoying. I'm not even working right now. I'm in the moment. Yeah. This is great.
I would say Jaden Epps. I would say Jaden Epps, who's now a Kings State Player of the Year this past year in basketball. But I saw him as a sixth grader when he was a sixth grader. I knew he was next level, seeing him even as a sixth grader. So like I say, he's a sophomore now at Kings Ford. likely he'll be at IMG or somewhere next year, so we probably won't see him anymore. But that was one kid, Keandre Lambert, who's at he's going to Penn State. He was at Maury this past year. Very impressive athlete. I don't want to really give you like the number, the quote unquote. I can give you like, the Josh Sweats, the number one defense ends in the country, but I'm trying to give you guys like Katron Allen, who's at IMG right now. I believe he's a sophomore, but he'll probably be one of the top recruits in the country in a couple of years. There's a lot though. There's a lot. Zaria Wiggins, who's at Mississippi State now. She played at Princess Anne basketball.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shanette Hicks went to Maury. Just finished up at Norfolk State. She was the Black College Basketball Player of the Year this past year. But yeah, like you said, man, there's a lot. I could probably go on all day with this list because I've been fortunate to see like some great kids. Malik Newton, who will break the Tidewater all-time rushing record this upcoming football season.
Yeah, baller.
He's been a starting running back at Lake Teller since a freshman. So when you talk about talent, like the Hampton Roads area just so filled with talent, so I could probably go on and on, but I'll probably say the kid that I was like most impressed with, like right off top, is probably Jaden Epps. That was probably the most impressive kid. His feel for the game, just the way he plays, he's a phenomenal kid, very smooth. I think he's up to like top 45 in the country right now. So yeah,
that's
good
awesome.
kid.
I love listening to you talk even more than I love your write-ups and your posts because it's like watching somebody just get in the zone, like you watching somebody freestyle or an artist perform on stage. Because I watch you spit this stuff off, and you cover the guys. And one thing I love about you and your work is you highlight the underrated guys before they become rated.
Right.
You'll tell us a player to watch, and I'm not talking about that middle school manufactured hype when everyone's like, "Oh, he's the next dog." You'll say, hey, keep an eye out for this guy. Has a great work ethic, or she is working so hard. And that's one thing I admire about you because you're able to spot the talent before the Ohio States, the Norfolk States, the Michigans, they spot them. And that's pretty remarkable. With that being said, you mentioned something about the Tidewater area, the Hampton Roads area, and the talent. I've never really asked you this, even though you and I are close. What is, in your opinion, and I've asked this to a lot of people from that area over the last several years, what makes that area so great, man? Because we are one of the largest metropolitan areas in the country without a pro NFL team. You have the shipyard there and the military. But other than that, career-wise, it's tough sometimes. We don't have that same job market that Northern Virginia has. But yet there's a certain edge, a certain talent level. Every year there's somebody or a group of kids, male and female, that come out of there that are remarkable. What do you think makes that area so special?
I think it's the fact that it's just so competitive, because it's like, there's a lot of people, but it's really small when you really think about it. So it's really a lot of competition. It's really like, it's a lot of competition. Some people call it crab in a barrel, thing, but I kind of look at it as two ways. Is so many people fighting for elbow room. So you really have to stand out to be considered one of the best here. Like you say, you always talk about Michael Vick, but a lot of people talk about Ronald Curry. You could talk about Aaron Brooks. You could talk about Allen Iverson. If you want to go back a little bit further, it's just so much to compete with here. And I think kids here understand that, and they, they're motivated by that. So to be the next up, that if I'm going to be the next up, I know who I'm coming behind. If I'm going to be one of the next great writers, I know I'm coming behind someone like Dave Till. You know what I'm saying? If someone wants to be the next great football player, they come behind a Michael Vick. They come behind a Ronald Curry, a Tyrod Taylor. So we here is like, you're not going to be the first to be great. It's just not going to happen. So, like I said, I just think that level of competition, because I've been places, I can tell someone that's from this area. I can tell the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. I'm like, man, I know exactly where you're from. You're from Hampton Roads. You're from the 7-5. Because I could just tell. Like when you were in college, I bet when you were at Virginia Tech, you could just tell the guys that were from your area.
You absolutely can. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, it didn't matter. Chesapeake, Suffolk, it didn't matter. It was just something they did or said or how they carried themselves. Yeah,
man. So like I said, I think it's just that sense of competitive. And it's not always, to me, it's not a bad thing per se. Like I know every day when I wake up, I know there are guys that want to be in my position, which is fine. That's cool. That makes me work harder. But I'm trying to get to this next level. So I know that I still have to work to get to Dave Till's level. And maybe Dave Till's trying to reach somebody. So like I said, I just think with just so many great people in this area, and it's just really so small per capita, is, it's just competitive. And we're just fighting for that, fighting for that next space.
You mentioned competitiveness and
Mm-hmm.
the David Tills and the Roombas and all those guys, the legendary writers and journalists
Mm-hmm.
from the area, which I respect immensely. However, there is another side of the media world and even sports world that you've had to overcome. Many people see I64 Sports and all the great things you do in the tournaments, the camps, the symposiums. They're wonderful. But you've also had to face some adversity with people not allowing you to get fields and people trying to sabotage your growth. And I hate to say it, but haters. And yet you've been able to rise above. Talk a little bit about your journey and what you had to deal with, because there are going to be there are young men that's going to see this or see you right now in your walk, and they're aspiring to be like the next Jamaar Hawkins. Talk about what you had to overcome and what you're going to deal with if you want to take this step to become someone such as yourself.
For one, man, you just kind of got to know your vision and don't allow anybody to get in the way of that. Like I said, I've had friends. Don't get it twisted. I have family members, friends. I'm not even going to get to the haters. But family members, friends, like, hey, maybe you need to do something else. You're not making any money, or, maybe this is not for you. Black people don't do stuff like this because there's not too many black media outlets and, stuff of that nature. So, yeah, I mean, I faced that as far as not getting fields, not being able to get gyms. I faced a lot of stuff, man. I got kicked out of, when I first started, the incident that happened at Salem High School when I got kicked out of the game because they thought I was protesting the national anthem. These are all things you face. Yeah, these are all things you face as a black journalist. But again, I know what I'm fighting for and I know what I'm fighting against. So that doesn't stop me from waking up each day and putting my best foot forward. It just wouldn't stop that. So, like I said, the thing with me is I just have a unique vision for myself. And I know I'm not the most polished journalist. I didn't go to school to be a journalist. So there's some things I probably messed up on too. But at the end of the day, I think for anybody, if you want to be in my shoes, just put your best foot forward. Fill yourself with positivity. Once you fill yourself with positivity, you won't even let the negative bother you. And that's something I mentioned on Twitter yesterday, is just learning how to, like, people like yourself that genuinely support what I do, just learning how to, just appreciate you guys and having a vision for myself and the area and the kids in this area, just because you're going to face those things. And I did an interview before where I spoke out of, how I face things that white journalists don't face. And I mean, I got crucified by some white journalists, but now when all this stuff is coming out, yeah, now they're, Black Lives Matters and this, that, and the third. Well, what was that 2 years ago? What was that 3 years ago? When I was going through this, like, I was the only person going through it. It didn't matter when I was the only person going through it. But now it's like everybody's, it's like, I'm not going to spend myself in cabinet, but now it's like, well, everybody's like, Black Lives Matter, this, that, and the third. Well, it wasn't, when it was inconvenient 2-3 years ago, there wasn't many people sticking up for people that look like me.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why it's important why we do what we do, what you do what you do, because our community needs a voice like ours, to speak for them. But yeah, long story short, man, I guess it's just knowing the vision that you have for yourself and knowing what it's going to take, not letting anybody get in the way of that.
Yeah.
I had former business partners. I mean, I had a lot of stuff that's happened in the meantime and a lot of people don't know about, but it's just moving forward, just keep it moving forward.
And once again, I think that's remarkable, because I think it is very difficult to do what you're doing, because I think, I know when you go down that path to be a journalist and in the media and use your platform, it is different for men, black men, or black women. Right. It is, but yet you've never stuck in that complacency zone or complained about, everybody's out to get you. Just keep moving forward. Jamaar, you mentioned school. You mentioned, when you went to college, you went to Norfolk State, correct?
Yeah, I started at St. Paul's in Lawrenceville. I started at St. Paul's College, and then I transferred to Norfolk State and finished up there.
And you got your undergrad and what else? Did you get your master's there too?
No, I just got my undergrad. I didn't go back to master's.
Okay.
I didn't go back to
So I just wanted to clarify before I ask you this question. So, you know, Norfolk State, I'm from down there. My father went to Norfolk State for undergrad, and I grew up, my mom went to Hampton, so I grew up around the Battle of the Bay and, you know, behold the green and gold. And my father used to always tell me when I began to get heavily recruited to consider HBCUs, and I did. And Howard and Hampton and other schools were in my top 10, top 15. A lot of people were surprised by that because I was a highly recruited player back in the day. You have been outspoken, and you've even helped me remind my players I mentor to consider HBCUs, and there you can have success there. And now more people are starting to get on that Jamaar Hawkins train. With that being said, what is your viewpoint still now about HBCUs, not just for an athlete, but also for a student who wants to major in psychology or science? What do you tell them, and why do you feel it's adamant? And just to clarify for people watching this, you're not against the UVAs or the Virginia Techs. You're just saying these schools are good too. But I'll let you say it in your own words. Why are you so adamant about these HBCUs?
See, me, I'm more about a culturally fit type of person, you know, because I deal with a lot of kids, and a lot of kids that I deal with, when they go to the PWIs, they're not satisfied with the experience. They don't really enjoy the experience as much as they've always just want to go to a big school, you know, but a lot of those schools just don't fit them. So me, myself, when I went to Norfolk State, I learned so much about myself as a person, you know, because you got to think right around that 18 to 21 age, that's when you're really growing a lot as a person. That's when you're getting away from what your parents taught you, what school has taught you, and you're really growing into your own, you know? So what better way to do that than to go into a school that fits you culturally? Again, like you say, it's not like I'm against PWIs, but me, I'm a black person, you know, I have 2 black daughters. I would want them to go to a school where they would benefit and that they could also benefit the school. So when they come back as alumni, they donate to the school. Hey, Norfolk State has this notable alum, you know, it would just benefit the school even more, especially on the culture side. So I think we have to get away with thinking that if we send all of our black athletes, the only way that our black athletes can make it if they go to these big schools. And that's just not the case anymore. We see it with social media, with the way games are covered now, the way they're streamed like pretty much everywhere globally. Why do you still need to go to big schools to get noticed? Kyle O'Quinn graduated from Norfolk State in 2012. He got drafted from Norfolk State. So I feel like where our kids should go is where they would benefit and where they can serve the most purpose, which would be the HBU schools. And you see what's going on right now. A lot more kids are considering HBCUs. You have Mikey Williams, number 1 freshman in the country. He's talking about going to HBCU. His mom went to Hampton. You have Monet Davis is at Hampton. I'm supposed to interview her soon, but she's at Hampton. Hampton playing softball. So Joe Smith's son is at Hampton. So you have, he's at Hampton. Amir Smith, he's over at Hampton. So you have HBCUs that can really put kids on the map. And now I think with what's going on with coaches having to speak out on what's going on now, a lot of PWI coaches are in comfortable situations. Because now it's like, I mean, just being real, because it's like, hey, do I speak out and chance my boosters being mad at me? Or do I really not speak out and have a chance of these kids or these recruits? That, you know, so I think now at this point, with what's going on in the world, you have to, I won't say pick a side, but it's kind of like these kids have to see that you're genuine at what you're doing. You know, so yeah, like I said, I'm definitely a pro HBCU. I'm not against PWIs. If my daughters want to make the choice, hey, that's on them. But I can tell you what, you get 5 visits, 4 of them gonna be HBCUs.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that. No, it's not. It's nothing. And I admire you about that. And my mom and dad, they weren't as adamant, but their influence on me was indirectly indirect because I saw what kind of life they had, and I grew up around it. So I was strongly considering Hampton and Howard. I remember, and you got to remember, I was getting letters from Oklahoma and Boston College and Maryland, and a lot of people looking at me like, bruh. And I'm like, hey, I just chose Tech at that time because something felt right about it. But at the same time, I don't think anything you're saying is wrong. And just to clarify and let people know, there's another thing too, and especially with Norfolk State and schools in urban areas like that, you weren't robbed or shot at. I'm talking about on campus. You had great professors, right? You had great education. Because I think that's another thing. Well, you're not going to get what you're going to get at a Michigan, but you had a great education, correct?
Right. And and to be honest, Dwight, I have like 4 people that went to PWIs that worked for me. I had 2 from Virginia Tech, I had 1 from ODU, 1 from Virginia Wesley. Pretty much everybody that was my intern went to PWIs, and I went to HBCU, and they still ask me for advice. We still talk, they still support what I do. So again, it's not just because you go to a PWI, it's not saying that you're going to get a better education or you'll end up in a better situation. It's still all on you. It's still all on you. You know, that's the thing. So, but again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm against PWI at all, because I realize you go where you fit. And also a lot of HBCUs, I'm going to put this back on the coaches. You got to offer these kids too. Because that's one thing I hear about from a lot of these kids and these coaches at HBCUs are not offering these kids. Why not?
They're not. I didn't get that many.
Right.
I didn't get that many.
Right. Why not? Why not? It doesn't even make sense. Even if I don't feel like I can get a top recruit like a Dwight Vick, I'm still going to throw out an offer. Maybe not, and I'm not going to wait until you're a senior, like I'm Virginia Tech or Florida State. I'm going to offer you as a 9th, 10th grade. So guess what? Maybe if it doesn't work out, or maybe if you get to your senior year and you're a mid-major recruit, hey, think about who offered you first. Let's also upgrade these facilities at HBCUs.
Yeah, that's true.
Like not just put it, hey, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not against PWIs, because I know it's just like the public school versus private school thing. There are some kids that are left here and going to private school that really flourish because they've been in better facilities. They've smaller class sizes. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's still a kid by kid choice. But I, like me personally, like I said, we're HBCU family over here. So my daughter, like I said, she can get one other choice. She can get one alternate choice, but I don't see her going to a North Carolina A&T or Howard or a Norfolk State and thinking that she would need to go to a PWI to get a better college experience.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't see that happening. So.
Yeah. And talk about, you mentioned your daughter, and being a father. How was that for you? Because I love one thing, you have the TikTok videos and you have stuff you put on Facebook, and you take pride in being a father, man. You talk about being a Black journalist and being in the media and I64 Sports, which we'll get to in a second, but you take pride in being a father, man.
Yeah. Man, it's it's crazy, man. I don't want to cry. But my oldest daughter saved my life, man. Like, before my oldest daughter was born, bro, I was really going through a lot of stuff. Like, I didn't have really like a real identity. Like, I was struggling financially, and my oldest brother got killed. I was going through a lot of stuff, man. So, like, when my oldest daughter was born, like, it really it slowed my life down. It really slowed my life down, man. It kind of, like I said, I don't want to cry, man, because like, thinking about my kid, that really makes me emotional, because Black fathers get such a bad rap, man.
Oh, I say it all the time.
Like, they get such a bad rap, man, and all I see is great fathers. Like, all I see is great fathers around me. Like, I see you, and like I said, where you in at with your daughter and your son, and I see so many great Black fathers, but we get such a bad rap, But yeah, just going back to my own kids, man, they keep me young, man. They keep me vibrant, and yeah, man, it's like my oldest daughter, she's just such a beautiful, smart person, and she's just such a warm. She's like the opposite of me. She's like so nice, and she's just so nice. She's just a great person, man, and yeah, but she really, when she came to my life, man, it really saved my life, man. Like, it really gave me a reason to keep going and finishing up school. And
I love seeing you with your kids. And the thing is, I remember back when I don't think Iverson was the first, but I remember at that time in 2001, he would bring his kids to the post-game presses, and there was a lot of people in the media that didn't like it. I remember listening to talk radio, sports radio, and they were like, I don't understand it. It's a distraction. Then you saw later on Curry doing it, and you saw more guys doing it. And I used to tell people, I used to actually call into a few radio shows and said, that is probably more important than seeing those guys drop 30.
Mm-hmm.
Because seeing young men growing up,
Yep.
admiring them, seeing an Iverson, a Curry, or whoever it is, bring their kids to the stage, taking pride in being a father is essential. And that's bridging the gap in our communities between the fathers who are absent and don't know how to come back in their child's life. And that's why I brought up in this interview to make sure you had a chance to speak on the pride you have in being a father. Because if people that follow you online, you know, they know. And I guess I mentioned TikTok videos, to be able to childlike and embrace those dances and things with your daughters is wonderful, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'll go back to like when I first started, man. I talked Jay Harris, ESPN. He said something to me that always stuck with me. He was like, you know, I see that you could be a great journalist, but don't try to fit in what everybody else is doing. He was like, what's going to separate you is being you. He said, don't try to be it was something he said, I want to say like stick in the butt report. He said something like that, but it was like, just be yourself as you go. Just keep being yourself because you have the ability to be a great journalist. And that kind of always stuck too.
Yeah, no, you have been able to do that. And that's what I think is unique. And with that being said, you were doing your thing with Recruit 757. And you caught everybody off guard when you started I64 Sports. And since then, and we'll talk about the things you're doing with that platform, but what was it like to step out on your own and really just do your thing when at the time there were some people who thought that wasn't a good move, and some people were even thinking, you know, why would you leave a good situation at Recruit 757? You know, what made you have the courage to do that?
Honestly, to be real, man, I was already running Recruit 757 anyway. I was pretty much already running anyway, so it wasn't really. I just got tired of someone else getting credit for my work for everything that I'm doing. So it wasn't big as the gamble as people probably thought, because I was already being an editor with Recruit 75. I was doing pretty much everything, so it wasn't a big gamble as people might have thought. I'll be real with you. The tide between me and him started turning during the election. That's when things kind of started going left between us. There was differences between how we thought, which I'm the type of person, you know, we don't agree with something and you just keep trying to make me see it your way. I can't be around you like that, you know. So we just had differences, and, you know, I just wanted to jump out and do my own thing, be able to tell stories like I want to tell them, not have someone else try to curb the stories for me or say, hey, this is what no, I said what I really thought.
Yeah.
That's what I really thought.
Yeah.
So now I have an outlet where I can say what I think, I can stand on what I think, and if people don't agree with it, that's fine, but this is my outlet. So you can't go to somebody else and say, hey, he said this or some, you know, I've never been that person. That's why I've never wanted to work for like a Wavy or a Channel 3, because I know me and I need to tell the story the way, you know, it needs to be told. So yeah, starting I64, man, I just knew it was time for me to be able to do things the way I wanted to be done. I wanted to cover track, baseball, things like that. I wanted to do some news. What I'm doing now, that's kind of what I wanted to do, and I knew I couldn't do it under him. So I just had to get up out of that situation.
No, and I respect that. And believe me, the election, unfortunately, man, was it 2016, whatever that?
Yep.
I think the sad part about it is prior to that election, you know, political differences aside, I didn't really care as far as if you felt you right, left, whatever. But I think that just like what's going on right now, 4 years later, you're starting to see people be exposed, and you're starting to see people's true colors come out. And it's unfortunate, man, because people and I posted about this, people let political affiliations and desires blind their judgment to what the hypocrisy is. And we need to look beyond that and look at human decency. But I'm actually glad you stepped out. And since then, I mean, every time I look, you got showcases, camps, and not just basketball, football. You're always trying to do different things. Talk about, you know, the different things you've done so far, the showcases, and how that helps kids and in different platforms in sports, and your blogs, podcasts. Talk about all the stuff you're doing and you have done.
Right. So actually, our very first event on the I64 was our Hampton Roads Youth Sports Awards, which about a year and a half ago now. And that was where we recognized the top youth athletes around the area. So very good event. We also had the 757 High School Baseball Media Day this year, which was the first ever media day for the baseball programs in the area. I think we had about 30 teams that came out, which was pretty good for a first event. A lot of excitement. I think what else? We've done the Winter Hampton Roads Winter Hoops Classic, which is our basketball event. This year would be our 6th annual event. So it's just growing, expanding, trying to cover pretty much, I'm not gonna say every sport, but the sports where that I've been interested in, which are football, basketball, track, and baseball. Which baseball we added this year. I know you saw that. You probably seen the documentary we're working on, the Lost Season, which will cover that'll cover 3 athletes. It was originally 4, but it's now 3. 3 of the high school seniors that had their seasons lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So yeah, it just, like I said, I think with I64 is more of a player view rather than the old owner telling kids what to do. I'd rather be at the like I64 as far as giving that, like the undefeated feel, where we allow players to speak their mind, we allow coaches to speak their mind. And that's what you have with the podcast. You have different things of that nature, because it's more of a, you see that's where media is going. It's like, it's going more towards former players like yourself. And, that's what people want to hear nowadays. So with I64, we really just want to open it up, to where people are telling their experience and parents are more knowledgeable. Kids are more knowledgeable at an early age. Believe it or not, you have kids that are high school seniors that don't know they can't visit if they're not registered with the NCAA clearinghouse.
Mm-hmm.
How does that happen? But you have offers from Alabama, Clemson, Texas. How does that happen? But you have offers from 30-something schools. Yeah, so with I64, man, I think the community really needed an outlet that speaks for them. It's not filled with bias, not filled with lies. It's, it really speaks for the community. And, that's something that I want to continue to do. We actually, I don't know if you noticed, but we're actually expanding into I64 Network now, which is, it'll go away from primarily sports to sports, news. We'll do some other stuff that we'll be doing. So
I have, but I didn't know, and I didn't know at what depth you were going to do it. I saw you talk a little bit about it, but just a little bit more about that. Like, you're going to expand and just cover not just sports, but news and culture.
Yeah, we're going to cover news, like you said, culture, politics. I brought in a sports editor, so he'll replace me. I brought in somebody that replaced me as a sports editor. I'll stop going to current events, and talk about things of that nature. But I did bring in somebody to replace me as a sports editor. So again, I64 Sports, it'll still be around, but we're going to actually grow into I64 Network, so that we'll be able to cover more of what's going on. As you saw, our first story was the story about the 2 young ladies that led a protest of the ports from ChickFilA. They got about 13,000 views now.
13,000. So for someone, I live in the 703 in Northern Virginia. I've been up here almost 20 years, but I still love home. I try to get back home. And you have been able to keep me abreast of what's going on. And when I saw that story, and you gotta understand something, I make no bones about it, I love ChickFilA.
Everybody loves ChickFilA.
And I saw it. I was on my phone, and I was like, what? I was like, what is going on? I said, really? Because, honestly, other than that whole thing about them, something about homosexuals, I really don't hear too much stuff negatively about ChickFilA.
Right.
And then I saw that, and I was like, wow. And I showed it to some of my friends, and them passed it on, man. So I'm actually glad you're doing that. I didn't even know. So that's actually a good thing, because you see Jamil Hill and other people are doing the same thing, sports and culture.
Right, there you go. And I think that's where we're at now. We're kind of blending. It's kind of going back to the 90s. You remember the 90s with a lot of the shows, you had like Martin, where you had like, they were wearing the HBCU clothing and they had the nice kicks, and we went away from that. It's like we started whitewashing everything, and we went away from loving our culture. Like, we want to assimilate into another culture, but we don't love our own culture. You know what our culture is beautiful. Yeah. And we need to showcase the beautiful aspects of that. But going back to the ChickFilA story for a second, I don't think a lot of people understand. There's only one owner for ChickFilA. The rest of the guys are operators or franchise owners. So that's why you get, for the most part, you don't really hear a lot of negative stories about ChickFilA, because one person pretty much controls the ownership aspects. This guy in the ports from ChickFilA, he's a new operator. So he just operates the ChickFilA. He's more of a franchisee. He operates the ChickFilA. They shut down the ChickFilA for 2 days. 2 days. He didn't make any money for 2 whole days. So Yeah.
And
But
just
yeah,
for people, but Jamaar, for people that have not seen that, that are going to watch this, what exactly happened? Just to elaborate for people who have not seen that story.
So what happened was there was a Portsmouth. I'm sorry, let me go back. So the ChickFilA in Portsmouth, Virginia, on Frederick Boulevard, they had a new operator come in. He's a white operator that came in back in November. So what happened was the black employee said that he came in and he pretty much fired or demoted all the black employees, and he started hiring white employees and basically having the black employees train the white employees on their way out the door. So what happened was two sisters, they quit. They pretty much quit within weeks of each other, and they just started complaining about what was going on. And it's what's coming out now is that there's more stories of what he's done, and it's pretty much gotten bad for them to where corporate has had to come out and make a statement that they stand with they stand with Black Lives now, and then they pretty much been forced to make a statement now. They have to do something. So it was a great story, man. I just think, just like what you said, I think people was like, not Chick-fil-A. Like, they did not want to believe that. So it was important to have the video and to have the girls talk and really explain the situation to kind of match, what was being said. Because I know I broke the story, I think it was Wednesday, and then Wavy did a story Thursday, which was very generic and watered down. I'm like, no, tell the story.
Yeah.
Tell the story. Because you have people that are confused, like, no, not Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A would never do. Yeah, maybe not the corporate Chick-fil-A, but this guy right here is a jerk, and he needs to be held accountable. And, that's what's going on now. So, you have people that's fighting. I got death threats, and, I mean, you have people that they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to. Yeah, I've gotten like 2 or 3 death threats, man. I've got a lot of people that just messaging me, and I'm not going to stop. Same thing I tell them, I'm not going to stop. So you can do that all you want to, but the truth needs to be told.
No question.
Needs to be told.
No question. So. And you mentioned the transition that I64 is making, the expansion in your brand and your company, which I think is impressive and needed. But at the same time, you've always been an activist, and you've always been socially aware. And with that being said, I'm curious, because you and I haven't talked. I know we see each other post and we interact that way. But just right now, what are your thoughts about everything that's going on, from the young man, Muhammad, that was killed, the jogger, and then you have Floyd, what happened with him and his death, and even decades now of unfortunate tragedies like that.
Yeah.
You have led marches in the 757 here recently, but you've always led and been a part of stuff. But like right now, the current climate of this country and what's been going on and what you've seen transpire, just elaborate a little bit about your thoughts and what needs to be done, or how you feeling right now as a father, as a man, as a professional, as someone that could be victimized or targeted. What are your thoughts?
I'm anxious. I'm filled with anxiety, man. Like I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I've been scared since the thing happened with Ahmaud getting killed. Just jogging, I've been scared to run myself. I've been scared to walk around my neighborhood. I don't live in a rich neighborhood, but I live in a mixed neighborhood to where my neighborhood is Trump supporting neighborhood. My neighborhood's a Trump. Yes, my neighborhood's a Trump supporting neighborhood. So when I walk around my neighborhood, yeah, I see the Trump support. I see the Trump 2020. I see that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So with me, man, like I said, I'm filled with anxiety. But I know in the position I'm in, I gotta do what I do. I gotta be the inspiration for somebody. I can't be scared because there's a kid that's watching me. There's middle school, there's high school kid, there's middle school kid watching me. So, I just keep moving forward. But going back to what you asked, man, as a Black man, right now I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm not scared, but I think it's realistic what we're facing right now. It's like, where are we going? Where are we going? I've been a part of some peaceful protests here, but I've also seen the other side of that. People are angry, and it's not just Black people. There are white people that's angry. There's Asian people that's angry. There's all different kind of races that's angry right now. I just hope that we can get back in. I don't think anything needs to go back to how they were. I think that's insanity to just keep trying to do things the same way over and over. To be honest, the way I had this talk with somebody else, I feel like 2020 was needed. I feel like even with the COVID-19, I feel like I needed a break. I don't know about you personally, but I feel like I needed a break
No, I
to
did
where
too.
I didn't do anything for like a month.
I
Like,
did too.
write, nothing. You know, I needed a break, and I feel like more people are aware. More people have had time to think and research and become knowledgeable about things. And I think 2020 is the year of the awakening. We're not going back to how things were. It's not going to happen. The climate has changed. Now, whether it's for the better or for the worse, I mean, we'll see. But I to be honest, I like that it's changed because I like that people are more aware and more awakened now. That's the part that I like. So regardless of, if you may, you know what, you may find out that the person you thought was your friend, you may find out as a racist. But it is what it is, because this is what we needed. We needed to, everybody's eyes needed to open like they are right now.
Yeah.
Exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
So,
What do you tell your daughters?
My daughters, I just try to comfort them and try not to let them be scared to live their life. Because like my oldest daughter, she's very smart and she watches the news a lot now, so she's aware of what's going on.
How old is she? How old is she?
She's 8. She's 8.
Okay.
She's 8. So she's aware of what's going on. So she's like, Daddy, she was like, why do people hate y'all? And I was like, well, who is us? And she was like, well, guys that look like you. And I was like, Jazz, Jazz, there's always going to be bad people in the world, but we can't allow those people to dictate how we live our life. We just can't allow that. I'm not going to raise you to be scared I'm not going to raise you to hate people. I'm going to tell you the truth, but I'm not going to raise you to hate people. That's not what we need in this world. So, yeah, I just try to fill my daughters with love. I don't want them to go out here thinking that white people are the enemies, or I don't raise my kids off that. You know, we talk. They know the truth about things. We talk about real history. I don't allow them to believe what they learn in school is real history, but I also don't, like, hey, you need to hate white people, or that's no better than a white person telling their kid to hate a black person just because of the color of their skin. What's going to move us forward is, hey, we acknowledge the truth, and what are we going to do to solve it? That's what moves us forward as a country. That's what our country refuses to acknowledge. Yeah, we black people have been hurt for years, for hundreds of years. Acknowledge that the same way the NFL had to say, you know what, we were wrong. That's what you should have said years ago, but acknowledge it. And what are you going to do to make it right? Yeah. What are you going to do to make it right? It's not just, oh, well, these people are angry, they're looting, they're angry for no reason. No, they're angry for a reason. I personally, Dwight, I was one that's like, hey, I don't understand why people are. I was that person at first, but then once I had the time to sit back and think, you can't control how anger comes out of somebody. It's kind of like the bully that's been the guy that's been bullied his whole life, and when he finally snaps, you can't control how he snaps. No doubt. But from there, why didn't anyone try to talk to him when he was going? You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah, but going back to what you were saying, man, I just try not to raise my kids based off fear or just hating anybody. We just try to love, try to be positive, and hey, judge people by how you know them, not what you think.
Yeah, I agree, man, and my youngest daughter is 9, and we literally had the same conversation last night because we had a family movie night, me, my wife, and 3 kids, and then the movie went off, and I went to the news just to see what was going on, and they showed, the man getting slammed, the 75-year-old man in Buffalo, and his head bust open, and they showed different clips. And my youngest, Lauren, who's 9, she turns and looks at me and says, "Why are cops doing this to us? And why I think they're supposed to help us? That doesn't make sense." And it almost got me emotional, man, because she's 9 and she's just trying to understand. And the reality is the world we live in and have been living in, that's been a reality for me and you for a long time. And I had to talk with my 2 oldest children about growing up in Newport News and Hampton, and even going across the water to Virginia Beach. And everybody down the way know how it is in Virginia Beach. Right. You take the wrong turn, and I love our beach, but I was there back in the day when, they came with the riot gear in 88, 89, and it was really scary. I wasn't there at the beach, but I remember seeing it as a young man. And the reality is that is the world we've been living in for a long time. And the further you go back, it's just the same thing. So
Right.
It sparked a lot of discussion in my house, and we're having a lot of conversations and awareness. We've always had them anyway, but this has brought out even more. And I completely share your same sentiments about 2020 being the year of the awakening and needing to just take a break, because you and I are very passionate and work so hard and rarely take time out. So I've been enjoying the fruits of my labor more now and just spending time with my kids and having conversations. I am also too anxious and at times aware of this could be my last ride, or, you know, if my tail lights out, what could happen. And I think for my white colleagues and friends, it's been an awakening because they had no idea that I even went through stuff like that. Because you know how it is, Jamaar, we don't broadcast it all the time.
Right, bingo.
You know, so when you look at now all the stuff you've done and all the stuff you're doing and going to do, what is the biggest thing you're going to do, or I shouldn't say biggest, but what are you looking forward to next in your career? Like, what's something everybody should be checking for I64 Sports with this new part that you're bringing on with the you know, culture and societal viewpoints and news besides sports?
I'm really excited about start covering current events and really start pumping out more original content, like with the documentary stuff. Because I feel like sports is always going to be sports, and a lot of people write about sports and talk about sports, but we don't have media outlets that specifically are for the people and not here to turn the people against each other, to manipulate the people, to divide the people. I just want to be that media outlet moving forward as just for the people. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I look for. I look forward to covering even more current events, covering the protests. And I think I put this on Instagram. The first night I covered the protest, I knew that's what I wanted to do moving forward, immersing myself in what's going on out here in the world, you know, and telling it because I'm at an event and then another media outlet event, but their version of the event is completely different than mine. That's a problem to me, you know? So that's what I'm excited about. Expanding what we're doing with I64 Network. Like I said, I'm bringing in even more of a staff now to where I don't have to just tire myself out every single day anymore. And yeah, so it's gonna be beautiful these next couple months, man. And hopefully the sports world open back up. we can get some football, something going on, basketball, something going on, man.
I posted the other day, yesterday, I believe, that, you know, the VHSL is now looking at a start date to reopen. So hopefully we hear some news these next few weeks about when that's going to happen, what that looks like. Yeah. So Jamaar, this is a part of my show. The last thing I'll allow you to do and talk about, this is I let the guests give their final thoughts. If you were talking to another Jamaar Hawkins, or a female looking to be what you are and become, or parents out there, whatever you want to share, your final thoughts about, you know, how they can surpass or come to fruition the legacy they want for themselves, what would you say to keep them motivated, to keep them focused, and keep them inspired?
I would say write down your vision, store it in your mind, and stay true to it. That would be it. Don't let anybody take you away from what your vision is. Realize that your path is your path. So regardless if you see me make it or whatever you consider me being successful at 33, you may get there before me, you may get there after me, but your path is your path. That's something that I struggled with when I first started, just being so anxious, comparing myself to other people. Why their article get more likes than mine? Why they get more views than me? Oh, I'm sorry. Why they get more views than me? But as I've gotten older and just more aware of myself, just staying true to your vision. And like me personally, I'm a fan of the younger generation. I believe in them. I think they're going to take it way further than we did. I think your daughters and your son's generation, they're going to go way further than we are. They're not scared. They're enlightened. They're not scared, and they're going to make some change. So a younger me, with just any advice, just stay true to your vision and make sure you don't let anybody change it. Because no one is definitely changing my vision moving forward. No, I mean, that's serious, man, because I've had some people that have really tried to just tear me down, man, and, you know, you don't know what you're doing or this, that, and the third. And you know, I look at it like what's going on right now, and these same people, they're tweeting out the same stuff I was tweeting out 2-3 years ago. Or they're talking about the same thing I was 2-3 years ago. You know, so now I'm looking at it like, damn, was I wrong, or are these people just fearful that I'm not scared to put my foot out before they are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you for jumping on, man. This was a great show, man. And I'm going to stay a supporter of what you do. And I'm a big fan of everything you've done. And I'm glad we met several years ago at Mike's camp, man. It's been a great brotherhood. And I'm a big fan of I64 Sports. I'm going to keep pumping what you putting out there, man. And shout out to everybody back home that supports you, that's going to see this recording this video, man. So
yeah, man, come on. And another thing, before we leave, we got to bridge this Peninsula and Southside gap, man. Because all the Peninsula guys come at me like, I don't like the Peninsula and I don't support the Peninsula. We got to bridge this gap somehow, because there's some great guys doing some stuff over there. Lamont Struthers, that's my guy, you know. Some great guys over there. So when y'all watch this video, just understand I do want to bridge the gap some kind of way. Let's work it out.
I hope you do, man, because you know, I'm older than you, man, and that rivalry has always been there for years, and it's at times a little bit deeper than what I thought, because it's like we're from the same area. I know when I get outside the area, it's all love, but hopefully you can bridge that gap, man, because there's some talented young men and women over there, and I think what it comes down to is everybody just appreciates the exposure, and you know, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just a matter of sitting down, communicating, and connecting in some way. And I know you're going to be the guy to do it. So shout out to the Peninsula, too, my home side, you know, everybody on that side. And shout out to the South side, man. I love everybody back home, man. But, you know, with that being said, man, like I tell everybody that's watching this and that checks for my spotlight, man, thank you to Jamaar Hawkins. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, make sure you leave an impact and a great legacy. Thank you.
Thank you.